Okay, guys, today we're going to continue reading How an Economy Grows and Why It Crashes by Peter Schiff.
Peter Schiff?
Peter Schiff.
Peter Schiff.
Chapter 3 The Many Uses of Credit.
Can I see?
¿Ya lo vieron?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, now start reading.
It's going to start out like this.
Oh, it's the man making the snack.
As we have just seen, Abel decided to loan Baker and Charlie fish so that they could build nets. Business loans such as these are the best use of savings because they tend to expand production. Of course, the act of lending money or fish to start a business is no guarantee that the venture will be successful. A borrower may not be able to fully execute on his initial plan. That's what will happen if Charlie and Baker fail to produce successful nets. In other instances, a business may fail because the idea never held any promise to begin with. Suppose instead of asking for a loan to build a net, Baker and Charlie ask Abel for a loan that will allow them to perfect the technique for mass fish hypnosis. If the fish wouldn't fall for it, the loan will produce no benefit for the borrowers, Charlie and Baker, or the lender, Abel. The bottom line is that the loan made to businesses that do not succeed wastes society's store of savings and diminishes productive capacity. As a result, the lender may then have trouble getting back his principal and let alone an interest. But the business plan that works make up for the ones that don't. It is important to understand that business loans are not the only option for society's store of savings. There are other types of loans that Abel could have made: consumption loans and emergency loans. Consumption loans. Suppose that rather than making a loan to Baker and Charlie to build their own nets, Abel had succumbed to their demand for a loan so that they could take a vacation. Reality check. Whenever an outside force, such as a government, encourages or demands that savers make loans for reasons that may have nothing to do with the actual likelihood of repayment, higher degrees of loss are almost inevitable. Such distortions waste society's savings. In their zeal to do something good, governments like to influence the way savings are lent out. They pass laws that make some type of loans more appealing than the others. But government has no savings, only individuals do. If, as a result of government incentives, the loans go to individuals or businesses that fail to pay off, and they often do, then the loss falls to those individuals who have sacrificially underconsumed to create savings. In fact, Abel will be much less inclined to lend in the first place if he were forced to make loans that he felt were excessively risky, such as in case of fish hypnosis. As a result, he may decide not to work as hard or not to sacrifice as much to save. Hey, Rockefeller, Grit Baker, maybe you should take a break from fish counting and lend me and my pal Charlie a couple of fish so that we can kick back a day or two. You're not the only one who deserves a life of leisure, and besides, we'll pay you back. Believe me, I know that fishing can get to be a drag, responded Abel. But remember, if I lend you one fish, I still want 2 fish in return to compensate for me for the risk. No sweat, Kingfish, countered Charlie. We'll be so well rested after our vacation that we'll be able to fish even harder and pay you back with interest. But how will Baker and Charlie be able to repay the vacation loan with interest if they do not expand their production capacity? After taking a few days off, they will still only be able to catch 1 fish per day to repay Abel. They will need to cut their consumption to less than 1 fish per day in the future. Their living standards will have to drop to repay the loan. Knowing this possible consequence, Abel tried to be reasonable. Look, guys, why borrow now and go hungry to repay the loan when you can just sacrifice now, go hungry for 1 day, build your own net, save up for the future, and then rest up whenever you want? Listen, said Baker and Charlie. Save the holier than thou bunk. Just give us the fish. Abel should deny the loan. Not only would such a transaction put his savings at unnecessary risk, but it will mean that the capital will be unavailable for more productive loans. And while he will earn their scorn, he will actually prevent future hardship. In actuality, loans to consumers that do not fundamentally improve productive capacity are a burden to both the lender and the borrower. Emergency loans. Here's the pictures so you guys can see. Here they are taking a vacation. Here they are not being able to pay with fish. Here they are, their credit has been denied. And we're going to talk about this right now. Emergency loans. As it turns out, Abel's rejection of Baker and Charlie's vacation loans was extremely fortunate. Let me start over again. As it turns out, Abel's rejection of Baker and Charlie's vacation loans was extremely fortunate. A week later, both are struck by a freak outbreak of the Pokalani pox, which prevents them from fishing for a week. Now, when this emergency arises, Abel is in a position to make a hardship consumer loan out of his accumulated savings so that Baker and Charlie can eat and live to work another day. Although he also understands that the risk of non-repayment is high, he understands that the risk is not making the loan is higher. Unlike the consumption loan, Baker and Charlie can perish if the emergency loan is not made. If this were to happen, the island would lose productive capacity.
Can we see it?
I showed it to you. This emergency loan would not have been possible if Abel had already given away his savings through unproductive consumer loans. In fact, savings can mean the difference between the life and death of society. Reality check. Can Abel expand credit? So, when confronted with the possibility of economic contraction, politicians and bankers frequently discuss the need to expand credit, which is what's happening right now with the coronavirus, by increasing the amount of money available to be lent. But can this be done on command? Yes, ma. Ahorita te traigo agua. In the case of our fishing friends, how can Abel legitimately lend out more fish than he has saved? The island's supply of credit is limited by its total supply of saved fish. Unfortunately, this is a takeaway. Unfortunately, it is widely accepted that in order to spur activities that politicians and social theories deem to be beneficial, government influences how savings are allocated. This has been accomplished by a litany of government loan guarantees and corporate and individual tax credits and penalties. As a result of these influences, individuals and businesses may be more willing to apply for, and banks may be more willing to grant certain types of loans. More of society's resources are then directed toward the favored activity, whether it be home building, college attendance, or solar panel manufacturing. Central to these impulses is the notion that government planners have a better idea of what's good for society than savers themselves. But there is no evidence that this is true. In fact, history is littered with grandiose schemes hatched in government think tanks that have simply not delivered on their promise. But more fundamentally, the imposition of a government layer in between savers and borrowers separates the cause and effect of lending and leads to an inefficient allocation of savings. Private lenders tend to be influenced only by the financial result of a loan, rather than the political symbolism of the underlying activity. Businesses that adhere to successful models are run businesses that adhere to successful models and are run by owners with strong records of achievement tend to repay loans at higher rates. As a result, this type of business plans tend to attract willing lenders. Much like Darwin's idea that natural selection produces hardier species, this lending discipline tends to produce healthier companies and stronger economy. But this does not occur when financial performance becomes secondary. Loans made to individuals or enterprises that do not succeed in creating the needed innovation or expanding productive capacity tend to weaken the overall economy by wasting the supply of savings. But, as we will see later in the book, the creation of a constantly expanding money supply and the government's seemingly limitless ability to take on debt have hidden the fact that real credit is limited by a finite supply of savings. People now assume that all that is needed for a functioning credit market is willing borrowers. But like any other resource, savings must be accumulated before it can be lent out. We're done. Chapter 4, Economic Expansion.
Can I see?
So now they're going to be building houses.
Can I see the page?
There it goes, right here.
No. The page from the... Yeah.
Saluda, pa.
Oh.
They're going to start building houses
Why? Why do they want houses?
because they've been living on the ground, on the island. Okay. Mañana seguimos con chapter 4, okay?
And then we have chapter 4, chapter 5, every chapter.
Okay, say good night.